If you just did join us, welcome to Crown Gist. No let this hot update pass you by. Hit that subscribe button now. The sacred silence of the palace has been shattered. After Ebony's alleged wahala during the holy ritual, the youth of the land have risen. Listen, while other bloggers they hiccup, fumble and quiver through their words, doing all that and then, Crown Gist is on a different level. I don't get time for mumbling or tongue-tying. I don't dida or shilly-shally with the truth. We are bold, blunt and biting. I give it to you straight from the source. No filter, no stuttering. If you want your gist sharp like razor, follow me ASAP. The sun was going down over the Ooni palace, but the heat inside the walls was not from the sun. It was from anger. Usually, after a big ritual like the one they just had, the whole palace is supposed to be quiet and holy. But today, the air was smelling like trouble. Outside the big palace gate, things were not normal. Usually, people walk past the Ooni palace with their heads bowed in respect. But this evening, small groups of young men were standing around. They were not smiling, they were not bowing. Their eyes were fixed on the palace doors, like they wanted to see through the wood. Inside the palace, the great lion, the king himself, was sitting on his throne. But the chair was feeling very hot. He could hear the noise from outside. He knew what was happening. The youth were angry because of what Ebony allegedly did during the sacred ritual. Ebony, that was the name on everyone's lips. To some, she was a queen. To many others, she was a problem that had stayed too long. The ritual he just finished was a very serious thing. It was the time when the king and the elders talked to the ancestors to bring peace to the land. Everything must be done in a special way. No mistakes. But they say Ebony did not follow the rules. They say she's sure she did not care about the old ways of the land. How can this happen in the Ooni palace? One of the youth leaders asked. His name was Jide, a man who loved tradition more than his own life. He said, if a small girl can come and mess up our sacred things, then we don't have a king anymore. The anger was not just today. For a long time, Ebony had been doing things that made people talk. She didn't listen to the elders. She walked where she wasn't supposed to walk. But every time people complained, the great lion will tell them to be patient. Why was the king being so patient? It was because of Yanifa. Yanifa is the one who sees what others cannot see. Before Ebony even entered the palace, Yanifa had sent a message to the great lion. She told him, do not shout that he is one. Do not push her away. Even if she makes you angry, you must carry her along. If you try to force her out, your kingdom will see fire. The great lion was afraid of that fire. He believed Yanifa's words. He felt that Ebony was a spiritual test. But the youth outside did not care about spiritual tests. They cared about respect. We are giving the great lion 72 hours, Judy shouted, and the crowd behind him roared. Just 3 days. He must perform the rituals on Ebony. He must send her away and cleanse the palace. If not, the youth will do it for him. Inside the palace, the elders were shaking. They moved through the halls like shadows, whispering to each other. They knew that when the youth start to talk like this, blood might flow. They looked at the great lion, waiting for him to say, take her away. But the king remained silent. He was looking at the ceiling, thinking about Yanifa's warning. He was caught in a trap. If he listened to his people, he might lose the spiritual protection of his throne. If he listened to Yanifa, the youth might break down the palace gates and disgrace him. Ebony was in her own room, far from the noise. People say she wasn't even worried. She wasn't packing her bags or crying. She was just sitting there, looking at the mirror, wearing her gold jewelry. It was as if she knew she was a center of a storm and she was enjoying it. Some people started to whisper that Ebony was not just a wife. They said she was a plant, someone sent by enemies to enter the Ooni palace and destroy the king's power from the inside. They said that was why she was so bold. By the time night reached the middle, the first 24 hours were almost gone. The youth did not go home. They stayed at the gate. They started singing songs and made the guards nervous. The lion is sleeping while the house is burning. The great lion called his most trusted servant. Go and check the back way, he said. Is there any way to reach Jennifer? I need to know if the message has changed. The youth are ready to fight. But his servant came back with a face full of fear. Kabiesi, the youth have blocked every road leading to the palace. Not even a bird can fly out without them seeing it. We are locked inside with Ebony.
As the moon stayed high over the Ooni palace, the tension grew. People in the town were not sleeping. They were talking in their houses about what will happen when the 72 hours finish. If the king does nothing, the shopkeeper told his wife, there will be no palace left to rule. These boys had serious this time. The great lion sat alone in the dark. He could feel the weight of his crown. For the first time, it felt too heavy to carry. He had to choose between the woman he was told to protect and the people he was born to lead. But as the clock ticked, a strange thing happened. A loud sound like a thunderbolt hit the ground near the palace gate. Even though there was no rain, the youth jumped back. The guards gripped their spears. Was it a sign from the ancestors, or was it the beginning of the end? One thing was sure, the next 48 hours in the Ooni palace will be the longest in the history of the land. The battle for the heart of the kingdom had started, and Ebony was right in the middle of it, smiling in the dark. Oshe, welcome back to Crown Gist. If you never subscribe, I beg, what you still dey wait for? Don't let this hot update pass you by. Hit that subscribe button now and turn on your bell. We don't do boring here. We only give you the real, raw and undiluted gist. The breakdown, the final countdown. Omo, the Ooni Palace is at breaking point. We are in the final 24 hours of the ultimatum and things are getting spiritual. The secret room, the great lion is looking for answers from the ancestors, but the ancestors seem silent. The waiting hour, Ebony is finally revealing her true colors. Those small items she brought out, now real juju or just mind games. The crisis, the youth are no longer just singing, they are preparing to storm the gate if the sun sets on their demand. Why Crown Gist is the king of gists? Listen up. While other bloggers, they stumble, mutter and quibble over their words, doing all that and then, Crown Gist is on a different level. I don't get time for mumbling or talk time. I don't dida or shilly-shally with the truth. We are bold, blunt and biting. I give it to you straight from the source. No filter, no stuttering. If you want your gist sharp like razor, follow me ASAP. The third day, the shadow in the palace. The third day arrived like a thief in the night. The clock was ticking down the final 24 hours. Outside the Ooni palace, the number of youth had tripled. It wasn't just the boys anymore. Even the men and women of the city were gathered. The air was thick with smell of wood smoke and the heavy vibration of war drums. Inside the palace, the silence was even scarier than the noise outside. The great lion had spent the whole night in the secret oracle room, but when he came out at dawn, his face looked 10 years older. His eyes were red and his hands were shaking slightly. He hadn't found the peace he was looking for. Kabiesi, his most trusted guard, whispered. The youth have started sharpening their cutlasses on the stone walls outside. They said the 72 hours is almost up. They are counting every second. But the great lion was not looking at the gates. He was looking towards Ebony's quarters. He walked down the long dark hallway, his footsteps echoing like a heartbeat. When he reached her door, he did not knock, he pushed it open. What he saw made his blood run cold. Ebony was sitting on the floor in the middle of the room. She wasn't the beautiful, smiling queen everyone knew. She looked different. Her hair was loose and she had rubbed white sock across one of her eyes. Around her were the things she had taken out of her bag. The old bone, the red thread and the graveyard soil. Ebony called it Lilies of the king, his voice heavy. The people want your head. They say you have caused the land. They say you messed up the ritual on purpose. Tell me the truth. Who sent you here? Ebony did not look up. She continued to tie knots in the red thread. The truth is a bitter leaf, my lion, she whispered. Yennefer told you to protect me, didn't she? She told you that if I leave, this thorn falls. Why do you think she said that? Is it because she loves me? Or because I'm the only thing holding back a secret that is bigger than you and this palace? The great lion stared back. What secret? Ebony finally looked up, and her one-toed eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. The ritual did not fail because of me. It failed because the ancestors have already turned their backs on this palace long before I arrived. I was sent to be the sacrifice that brings them back. If you throw me into the use, you are giving the ancestors the blood they are asking for. But if you keep me, you keep your crown, but lose your people. Which one do you want? The great lion was confused. Was Ebony trying to save him or trap him? He remembered Yennefer's words again. Live normally with her. Do not push her. Now he realized that Yennefer might have been trying to hide the fact that the palace was already in trouble. Ebony was like a medicine, was also a poison. Outside, the sun reached the middle of the sky. The sensitive of our deadline was now just 6 hours away. Jide as the youth leader stood at the front of the crowd. They had tied red cloths around their heads. This was no longer a protest. It was now a revolution. The sun is moving, shouted Jide into the palace walls. When the shadow of the great gates reaches them into stone, we are coming in. We will take Ebony ourselves, and we will cleanse the palace with our own hands. The elders ran to the king's chamber. They fell on their knees. Gabi said, "Please, you must act. Side highway. Now, the boys are ready to die, and they are ready to peel. Do not let the blood of the youth stain your reign." The great lion looked at his elders. Then he looked at the door where Ebony sat with Ajuju. He felt like a man
standing on a thin rope over a pit of lions. If he moved left, he died. If he moved right, he died. Suddenly, a loud scream came from the back of the palace. One of the servants ran into the throne room, gasping for air. "Fire! There is fire in the royal storehouse! The ancestors are angry!" The palace went into total chaos. Servants were running with buckets of water. The youth outside saw the smoke and started cheering, thinking it was a sign that the palace was falling. They began to push against the heavy wooden gate. The wood started to creak and groan. The great lion stood up. He took his ceremonial staff. He knew he couldn't wait until the sun set. He had to make the choice now. He walked toward Ebony's room one last time. He grabbed her by the arm and pulled her up. "If you are the sacrifice," the king roared, "then let the land decide your fate." He dragged her toward the balcony that looked over the palace gates. When the youth saw the great lion appearing with Ebony, the noise became deafening. Thousands of voices screamed at once. Jide stepped forward, his cutlass flashing in the sun. "It is time, Kabiyesi. Hand her over." The great lion looked at the crowd, then at the girl beside him. Ebony didn't struggle. She just looked at the youth with that same mysterious smile. She whispered something into the king's ear that made his face go pale. The shadow of the gate was inches away from the middle stone. The 72 hours were almost over. The shadow finally touched the middle stone. The 72 hours were finished. Outside the Oboni palace, the noise stopped for one heartbeat, and then it turned into a roar that shook the ground. "Time is up. Open the gate or we pull it down." Jide's voice was like a trumpet. The youth pushed, and the heavy wood of the palace gate began to crack. High up on the balcony, the great lion held Ebony's arm. The smoke from the storehouse fire was blowing behind them, making them look like spirits in a cloud. The king's heart was drumming against his ribs. He looked at Ebony. "Waiting you talk just now," he whispered, his voice shaking. Ebony leaned closer, her chalked eye looking like a white moon. "I told you, my lion," she whispered, so only he could hear. "Yennefer did not tell you to keep me because I am a queen. She told you to keep me because I am your replacement. The ancestors already chose me to take the crown when you fail. If you hand me to the youth, you are handing them their new leader. Is that what you want?" The great lion's eyes went wide. Everything started to make sense. Yennefer wasn't trying to protect the king, she was protecting the transition. She knew the great lion was losing his grip, and Ebony was the one sent to watch him fall. The ritual didn't fail because of Ebony's mistake. It failed because the spirits were already looking at her, not him. "No," the king groaned. "That cannot be." "Look at them," Ebony pointed to the youth. "They think they want me dead, but they are actually waiting for someone with the courage to face you. If I go down there and show them the mark on my hand, they will stop fighting the palace and start fighting for me." Below them, the gates finally gave way with a loud crack. The youth poured into the courtyard like a flood of red ink. The palace guards dropped their spears. They were outnumbered and outspirited. Jide led the way, stopping right under the balcony. "Kabiyesi," Jide screamed. "The 72 hours are over. Bring her down or we come up." The great lion looked at the thousands of angry faces. He looked at the elders who were already backing away from him. He realized that Ebony was right. If he handed her over as a prisoner, she would speak. She would show her power, and his reign would end in shame. But the great lion was still the king. He took a deep breath and tightened his grip on his staff.
he decided to play the final card. "My people," the king boomed, silenced the crowd. "You asked for justice. You said the ritual was broken. You said the land is dirty." "Yes," the crowd shouted. "Ebony has confessed," the king lied, his voice reaching every corner of the palace. "She has admitted that she was sent by enemies to destroy us, but the rituals you asked for is too small. The ancestors have told me that she must be banished to the forbidden forest now and forever. No one shall see her face again." The crowd went quiet. Banishing someone to the forbidden forest was seen as a death sentence. It was worse than your sending her away. It was erasing her from the world of the living. Ebony's smile vanished. She hadn't expected the king to lie so boldly. She tried to speak, but the king signaled to his strongest guards, "Take her through the back secret gate, now before the sun fully sets." The guards grabbed Ebony. She struggled, her eyes burning with hidden fire. "You think you can hide the truth, lion?" she hissed. "Be honest will not keep me. The ancestors know who I am." As they dragged her away, the king turned back to the youth. "My people, the palace is being cleansed as we speak. The fire in the storehouse was the ancestors taking their share. Go home, the Ebony palace is still standing." The youth looked at each other. They had won, but it felt strange. They watched as the smoke cleared. Slowly, the anger started to cool. Jide looked up at the king, his eyes full of suspicion, but he signaled his men to move back. "If we see her in this city again, not even the forest will save this palace." By midnight, the Ebony palace was quiet, but it was a cold, lonely quiet. The great lion sat on his throne, alone. Ebony was gone, dumped at the edge of the forest, where the spirits flee. Yanifa's prophecy was still hanging in the air like a ghost. The king had kept his throne, but he had lost his peace. He knew that Ebony was out there in the dark, and he knew that Yanifa would soon come to ask him why he changed the script. The 72 hours were over, but the story of the great lion and the planted queen was just beginning. The land was still shaking, and everyone knew that once the sun rose again, the Ebony palace would never truly be the same.